All right, welcome everyone. My name is Dan from Dan's Test Prep. Today we're going to be doing a little special session on Tutor Tuesday, and it's going to be our Tutor Tuesday Digital SAT Prep. The way these Tutor Tuesdays usually work is I'll prepare some questions for you guys, either from SAT, or ACT, or AMC, or whatever community questions we have submitted, and then we'll just go over and answer those together so you guys know exactly how to go through these types of questions. So, let's see what we've got. Today, I've mainly focused it on digital SAT prep. So, we're going to be doing a lot of those digital SAT questions, and that includes both reading, writing, and math. They won't all be too hard. They'll be kind of random difficulty. And if you guys have any community questions that you want to submit, I have a few slots open for that as well. Let's just jump right into our first SAT math question, which is right over here. Which of the following systems of linear equations has no solutions? I think you guys should be able to do this one. It's not too bad. I know that when there's no solution, then the system basically never intersects. So you have two non-intersecting lines. And the only case that's true is when they're parallel to each other. Parallel or non-intersecting. And the only case where that would be true is when you have the same slope on both lines. And there's only going to be one answer choice here with the same slope. Can you see it? It's answer choice C. Both of them have 16x in the equation, which means that they're going to grow at the same rate. And since they have different intercepts, they're never going to intersect each other. How are we doing on that one? Oops. I think I might have got kicked out right there. You guys able to see this? Awesome. Okay. Let's go through for our next question. And by the way, I'll paste some of these in case you guys can't see in the chat. This next one says, well, this next one's a long one, but I'll read it out. Jennifer bought a box of crunchy grain cereal. The nutrition facts on the box state that a serving size of the cereal is 3/4 of a cup and provides 210 calories, 50 of which are calories from fat. In addition, each serving of the cereal provides 180 milligrams of potassium, which is 5% of the daily allowance for adults. If P% of an adult's daily allowance of potassium is provided by X servings of crunchy grain cereal per day, which of the following expresses P in terms of X? I mean, first of all, we just need to set this up as an equation. We know that in X servings, or let me write it this way first so we can figure some of these terms out. In one serving, we have 5% allowance, daily allowance provided. In two servings, we would get then our 10% daily allowance. And it looks like this is just a linear equation where it increases by 5% constantly. So I would say in X servings, we would get 5 times P% adults daily allowance. Or let's write it this way. This way might be better. If we want to get P, or yeah, let's do X servings. X servings. Because then we can represent this as a slope times the allowance. So the slope is going to be 5 here, of course. As we increase by 1 on our X, the allowance increases by 5 every time, and that's going to be a constant rate of change or a linear equation. If we have X servings, X amount of servings, it's going to be 5p% of that allowance. Sorry, not 5p. But if we want to get to p% allowance, X servings is going to be equal to p over 5%. P% of the daily allowance is going to be represented, let's say, we could plug in some numbers here. 5%, for example, as P, the daily allowance, then that would only take one serving. If X equals 1, P equals 5. If we wanted to, for example, get 10% of the daily allowance, we could set P equals to 10. X would then need to be equal to 2 in this equation right here. You can see matching those numbers up, this equation holds true. So in other words, in order to get p% of the daily allowance, that's going to be equal to 5 times x. It's always increasing by 5, like I said, right? So every time we increase x by 1, then the resulting value change in p should be 5 times increase, 5 times what x was increased by. And that matches up with answer choice B, which tells us the percent daily allowance is equal to 5 times the amount of the serving, right? One serving is 5%, then P% will be just 5 times the number of servings. Let me check my mic for you guys. I think you should be able to hear me now. Let me know. Are we all good? Okay. Sweet. We'll keep moving on then. So here's going to be our next question. One of the factors of 2x cubed plus 42x squared plus 208x is x plus b, where b is a positive constant. What is the smallest possible value of b? Smallest possible value of b. Well, this one's an interesting one. I'm going to see how we can actually factor this one out. I noticed that a common factor to all of these terms that were given is 2x, and then I'll get x squared plus 21x plus 104. And let me just keep it like this. This should be for even further factorable. It's a little bit tricky, but you could probably see we can factor this as 2x. And in the quadratic, we want two numbers that multiply to 104 and add up to 21. And that would be x plus 13, x plus 8. You can verify that on your calculator. So if we're comparing all the factors of this equation to this form, then I see either this could be x plus b, or this could be x plus b. Right, b is a positive constant, positive constant. What is the smallest possible value of b? We only have two possibilities if we're matching up this equation, and that's going to be b equals to 8 or b equals to 13. And I hope that you guys would all agree b equals to 8 is the smallest possible value that we can get there. Able to hear me okay? Let's move on to the next question. Next question here. A window repair specialist charges $220 for the first 2 hours of repair, plus an hourly fee for each additional hour. The total cost for 5 hours of repair is $400. Which function f gives the total cost in dollars for x hours of repair, where x is greater than or equal to 2? Okay, so total cost where x is greater than or equal to 2. Well, if 5 hours of repair was $400 and there's a flat fee of $220 for the first 2 hours, then I'm going to say this is going to be $220 plus the remaining time, which is 5 hours minus 2x. Or sorry, it's going to be $220 plus the last 3 hours. Let's say this is like a 3b, or sorry, 220 plus mx equals y. Or if we want to write this in y equals mx plus b form, let me just convert this to say y equals, or f of x equals mx plus 220. And of course we have a data point for this, which is that 400 was our final value. We got charged $400 for 5 hours of repair. So what I would do from here is set up the equation like this. 400 is equal to 5 times the hourly rate plus the 220 flat fee. But this, if you set it up like this, there's actually a couple issues with this, right? This is assuming that, 220 is the flat fee when we do no work. But this is actually just for the first 2 hours. So in reality, we've got to include some of that initial 2-hour charge in the hourly rate. So what we really want to do here, instead of falling into their trap, is we could just split up that cost, $400, like so. What I'll say is we want f of, let's write a couple equations here. The function where x equals to 2 should equal to 220. The function x equals to 5 should equal to 400. We can visualize this to see what's really going on here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For example, when we've done 5 hours of work, we charge $400. When we do 2 hours of work, we charge $220. So you have these two data points, and this is how you're going to more accurately calculate that slope with the actual rate of change between these two data points. And that's going to be, here's a slope calculation, y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. And if you do this math out, this is going to be what, 180 over 3, which is 60. So don't fall into the trap of, setting up the problem the wrong way. We want to use just the information that's given, and now we can get a more accurate slope, which is going to be 60. So I see that's either going to be A or B. Now we just have to figure out the y-intercept. You might think, okay, 220. But again, if we extend this line that we drew right here, it intersects a lot lower, somewhere down here, which we can only guess is going to be about 100. And yes, if you want to verify this, you can plug in, for example, x equals to 2. 60 times 2 is 120, plus 100 would get you to 220 for the first 2 hours. Also, 60 times 5 is 300, plus 100 will get you to the 400 for 5 hours. Any questions on that one? Don't think so. But let me know and we'll go back to that one. Here's our next question. The graph of 7x plus 2y equals negative 31 in the xy plane has an x-intercept at a, 0, y-intercept at 0, b, where a and b are constants. What is the value of b over a? Okay, well, the x-intercept, they literally gave us how we can calculate it, and that's if we set y equals to 0. So let's solve that one out first. 7x equals negative 31. X equals negative 31 over 7. For the y-intercept, that's just when x equals to 0. For the y-intercept, we get 2y equals negative 31, y equals negative 31 over 2. Right, remember that this y value is our b term. This x value is our a term. And so b over a is equal to this term divided by this term, which I can rewrite this a little bit simpler. Negative 31 over 2 times 7 over negative 31. That cancels that out, and we just get a positive 7 over 2, which gives us answer choice D. All right, that one looks good. For this one, we've got a reading writing question, so let me paste that in for you guys right here. Take a second to read through that one. Okay. So it says researcher Hae Sung-jung led a 2020 study showing that individual acts of kindness can blank pro-social behavior across a larger group. Jung and her team found that bystanders who witness a helpful act become more likely to offer help to someone else, and in doing so can inspire still others to act. Okay, so which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase? Okay. For this one, I'm gonna think about plugging in all of these answer choices. Showing individual, and I'm just gonna read like a little phrase right here. Showing that individual acts of kindness can blank pro-social behavior. I'm thinking something like inspire, but let's check by plugging in. Can require pro-social behavior, remember pro-social behavior, foster, or discourage. To me, there's one word that immediately stands out, and that's foster, right? Because discourage is too negative for this context, where we're saying kindness and pro-social behavior and inspiring others. Foster would make sense because it causes the community to, it inspires or fosters or brings about this kind of change. Require and remember don't really fit in this context because we're not talking about memory, or we're not talking about enforcing something, just that this is something that happens as a result. Our next problem here, not too bad. What is an equation of the graph shown? This one you might be able to get right away, and you can see that we have an intercept down at negative 8, and we have a slope that's going down, or over 2, down 2, over 2, down 2. So the slope, which is the rise over 1, is -2/2, or just -1. And then the y-intercept is at -8. And that is going to match up exactly with answer choice C. This next one says, this one's a reading and writing question. While many video game creators strive to make their graphics ever more blank, others look to the past, developing titles with visuals inspired by the 8-bit games of the 1980s and 1990s. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of standard English? Okay, so all these, we're not choosing the word, or I guess the vocab word here. They're all saying lifelike, but we're just trying to choose the punctuation and, matching this to the conventions of standard English. While many video game creators strive to make their graphics ever more blank, ever more lifelike, others look to the past. It seems like there'd be a natural pause here. We have this dependent clause set aside by the word while, which introduces the sentence. And I know that after a dependent clause, we need to put a comma and then introduce the rest of the sentence. So I'm gonna go lean towards C. I wouldn't necessarily pick B because there's no punctuation there. A doesn't have punctuation, and D does have a comma, but we don't need the word but because we already have the word while. So that's two words that are just unnecessary. We only need to say while. Next one here as well is another reading writing question. If we did not have while, would D be the answer? Yes. Many video games creators strive to make their graphics ever more lifelike, but others look to the past. That would make sense. But since we have already a dependent clause set aside by while, we can't put but. Okay, this one, I'll try to read the best that I can. The province of Sokonochko was situated on the Pacific coast, hundreds of kilometers southeast of Tenochtitlan, the capital of the Aztec Empire. Because Sokonochko's location within the empire was so blank, cacao and other trade goods produced there could reach the capital only after a long overland journey. Seems like it's very far away or hard to reach based on the context of this sentence. So I'm going to pick a word that reflects that. Let's see, unobtrusive, that seems like it would be easy to access. Concealed, that could work pretty well if it was hidden away. Then approximate and peripheral, those seem not really related to like how hidden or hard it is to reach there. So definitely I'm gonna go with, let's see. It was a long overland journey. I'll rule out A for sure. Unobtrusive means it's very easy to reach. Right? But thinking about something like concealed approximate peripheral, it was hundreds of kilometers southeast of the capital. There was such a long journey. It's not necessarily actually going to fit with concealed, even though I kind of wanted to put that one, because there's no words that actually indicate that it was hidden. It was just very, very, very far away. Long overland journey. And that's actually what the words are more relating to. Approximate could maybe work, but that would signal more of like it's in a general vicinity. We know where it is, but it's just so far away. And that's why I'd actually go with D for peripheral on this one. It was really on the outskirts. It was peripheral. It wasn't really near the capital. How are we doing on this one? Yeah. Next reading writing question. The following text is from Charlotte Bronte's 1847 novel Jane Eyre. Jane works as a governess at Thornfield Hall. Okay, this is a lot of text. Let's skip this and read this. Which choice best states the main purpose of the text? Main purpose. I'm going to focus on that. I can even skim these answer choices if I want to get a better sense for what they might ask us. Convey a contrast, emphasize loyalty, demonstrate Jane finds her situation challenging, demonstrate or describe her determination. See, I went on with my day's business tranquilly, but ever and anon vague suggestions kept wandering across my brain of reasons why I should quit Thornfield. And I kept involuntarily framing advertisements and pondering conjectures about new situations. These thoughts I did not think to check. They might germinate and bear fruit if they could. Well, let's see. I see just my summary of this is that Jane seems very calm. She's going about her business tranquilly, but suggestions keep wandering through her brain why she should quit. And she keeps pondering these new situations. So it seems like there is a little bit of a contrast here, but let's just check the other answer choices. Emphasize her loyalty. No, that's not true. She was thinking about quitting. Demonstrate she finds her situation challenging and fulfilling. Maybe challenging. I don't see that it was like very fulfilling to her. Describe her determination to secure employment outside. Well, this wasn't like she was definitely going to do this. She was thinking about it, but she's saying, I did not think to check those thoughts. So between A and D, I'm going to go with A, just showing that there's a contrast between her outward calmness, going about the day tranquilly, and internal restlessness, thinking about quitting her job. If you guys can't hear it, maybe try rejoining the stream. Here's the next question. I think this one we can go through relatively quick, even though it's huge. We'll start by reading the question statement. Which finding from the researcher's study, if true, would most strongly support their claim? Then I'll look at the claim. Where's the claim here? Psychologists have argued that experiencing awe, a sensation of reverence and wonder typically brought on by perceiving something grand or powerful, can enable us to feel more connected to others and thereby inspire us to act more altruistically. There's evidence for this effect where participants were asked to either gaze up at exceptionally tall trees in a nearby grove or stare at the exterior of a nearby nondescript building. After 1 minute, an experimenter deliberately spilled a box of pens nearby. Okay, well, if we want the person to act more altruistically, we want them to be connected to others and help others. So I'm guessing that people who saw the awe-inspiring trees would help people. So let's see if there's an answer that supports that. Participants who had been looking at the trees helped the experimenter pick up significantly more pens than participants who had been looking at the building. That seems like a good choice to me. Let's just look at the other ones though. Participants who helped the experimenter pick up the pens used a greater number of positive words to describe the trees. No. We want the experience to help them act more altruistic. Did not help the experimenter, was significantly more likely to report having experienced a feeling of awe. No, that's a reverse relationship. Participants who had been looking at the building were significantly more likely to notice that the experimenter had dropped the pens. No, that's a matter of attention. So I'm going to go with A. If you had been looking at those awe-inspiring trees, you help the experimenter pick up significantly more pens, or you act more altruistically. Let me try rejoining the stage real quick. Okay. Are you guys able to hear me? That's crazy. I don't know why that would occur. I'm glad it works. I pasted the next question in the chat here. Take a second to look over that real quick. Again, I'm going to try to skip through to the main points of this question. It asks which choice from uses data from the table to complete the statement. Most effectively uses data from the table to complete the statement. So it says that over the past 200 years, the percentage of the population employed in the agricultural sector has declined in both France and the United States, while employment in the service sector has risen. Okay, declined, risen. However, this transition happened at very different rates in the two countries, right? France and the United States. This can be seen most clearly by comparing the employment by sector in both countries in blank. Let's see, 1900 with 1950, and let me just cross out some of these other ones. Agricultural sector is what we're focused on in France. Agriculture in the US. And then service sector in France versus services in the US. If I look at these two sectors, agriculture in the US, and it's happened at very different rates in the two countries. What it looks like to me is there's this difference in the numbers in between 1900 and 1950 comparing the services. You see this number right here, 28 to 35, and then 31 to 53. It's a very different rate. So I would probably go with comparing 1900 to 1950, which would be answer choice A. 1800 to 2012, all the numbers look pretty much the same between France and the US. 1900 to 2012, there's no big change there. 1800 to 1900, again, all the numbers are pretty similar. So the only numbers that really stand out are those differences between 1900 and 1950, where the biggest change was, the biggest relative difference between those two groups. Okay. I have a few more slots for some more questions, so I'll paste in maybe like last few, or if you have questions in the chat you want to submit, you can send those in as well. Let's see. You guys should be able to still hear me, I hope. Feel free to submit some questions. I've got space for maybe like 2 more questions here. And here's our first one. We've got a function f of x, and the function for g is g of x is equal to f of x plus 4. And we want to find the minimum of g of x. Well, if we were doing this on the digital SAT, what I would do is honestly probably just graph f of x, and let me show you what that process would look like. And then we could define g of x is equal to f of x plus 4, and then just find the minimum that way. So I'll paste in a little screenshot in here that shows you, if you're solving this on a digital SAT, how you can do that. Very, very quick and easy, right? F of x is this red one, but g of x is just f shifted to the left by 4 units. So the minimum value of g of x is going to be c, 7, which occurs at x equals -10. If you had to solve this by hand, well, hopefully if you're taking this on the paper SAT, you could still use a calculator to graph it. Then you could find the minimum value here is 7, occurs at -6. And then shifting it horizontally is not going to change the minimum. So it's going to still be 7. Or if you had to solve it really by hand, you could get the vertex as the minimum. Vertex is -b over 2a. That's the x coordinate. And then plug in f of x to get the resulting minimum value, because the value means the y value. Either way you solve it, you're going to get that the minimum value is going to be 7. Let's do a couple more math questions here. What have we got here? Okay, I like the looks of this one. This one is saying which ordered pair x comma y is a solution to the given system of equations. I already see here that x plus 7 is equal to 10, and if I subtract 7, I can easily get x equals 3. And since x plus 7 is equal to 10, we don't even have to plug in 3 here, although we could. We're just going to get the 10 squared is equal to y. So very, very quickly we can get y equal to 100 and immediately get answer choice A. And I guess the last problem that we'll do for today is going to be this one, which is interpreting exponential equations. The equation e of t equals 5 times 1.8 to the t gives the estimated number of employees at a restaurant, where t is the number of years since the restaurant opened. Which of the following is the best interpretation of the number 5 in this context? It looks like it follows a pretty standard form of exponential equation, where that multiplier in front is your initial value. This term right here with the exponent on it is your growth rate. This t is your time variable. And then this y is just the value of something. Since the 5 is disconnected from this exponent, that means it's going to be a constant 5. It's not going to like multiply every time, just once. And when t is equal to 0, that multiplier actually goes away. So we're just left with the 5. So 5 should be something like an initial value. 5 should be an initial value. And skimming through these ones, estimated number of employees when the restaurant opened makes the most sense. We can't have 5 as an increase, or number of years, or percent increase. 5 has to be the initial value. I think that's all the questions that we've got for today. Hopefully you guys learned something new. And don't forget, I have an Explore page, exploredancefestprep.com, where you can look at all my social medias, you can look at free resources, and join my SAT newsletter for more free tips. Thank you very much. I will see you guys next week.